Well, everybody, if you've been paying attention to politics for the last month or so, you might remember that a really big event occurred recently. One of the largest, if not the largest, far-right pundit in the entire country, Tucker Carlson, was fired from Fox News. That he no longer does his show on Fox News. And conservatives all around the country have been crying the saltiest of tears ever since this occurred. But, as I'm pretty sure I predicted in my video about all this when it originally happened, Tucker Carlson was not going to be going anywhere. He is too popular and too effective at pushing far-right propaganda to just disappear. Someone other than Fox News is going to pick him up. And I threw out a few different predictions, but none of my predictions were accurate. Because Tucker Carlson has just been hired by a new media company. And you're not going to believe what media company it is. Elon Musk has hired Tucker Carlson to now work at Twitter. Remember, Tucker Carlson's a centrist. Or not Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk is a centrist. He just cares about freedom of speech and equality. He's a centrist. God, it is so fucking blatant at this point how desperate Elon Musk is to turn this site into like a far-right meme site at this point. On this platform, unlike the one-way street of broadcast, people who are able to interact, critique, and refute whatever is said. And of course, anything misleading will get at community notes. I also want to be clear that we have not signed a deal of any kind whatsoever. Tucker is subject to the same rules and rewards of all content creators. Rewards mean subscriptions and advertising revenue share, coming soon, which is a function of how many people subscribe and the advertising views associated with the content. I hope that many others, particularly from the left, also choose to be content creators in this platform. So, yep. Tucker Carlson is now a Twitter content creator, and he put out an announcement to go with it. So let's go ahead and have a good old watch and hear what Tucker Carlson has to say, because we're now going to be inundated with his rhetoric on Twitter now. Elon's really turned Twitter into the biggest far-right platform in the world very quickly, hasn't he?
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact,
so what he's referring to right now is the fact that he got sued for spreading misinformation, and his legal defense for what he was doing was that nobody could take anything he says seriously on his show because the character that he supposedly plays is so crazy that you literally can't take anything he says seriously. That was literally what Fox and his lawyers had to argue in order to defend him in court. He literally admitted that he lies on television to appease the Trump crowd about the election fraud stuff in texts that came out from the Dominion lawsuit. Yep. You're completely right, the vegan Rancor. So, this is just him sort of, subtweeting the fact that he got exposed, legally even, as being, a liar. He is a legally designated lie spewer, and he's just kind of coping about that. So he's kind of, celebrating the fact that Twitter is a platform that he will never be punished as far as TOS goes for blatantly spreading misinfo, and he can go all the way mask off. I'm excited to see Tucker Carlson going full open mask off on Twitter, because there's really nothing to stopping him. He's got no reason not to at this point.
hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie. a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work?
Hey guys, do you know what the number one step in brainwashing people is? Like every single academic analysis of the concept of indoctrination and brainwashing, the first step, the most effective first step, is always telling that person they've already been brainwashed or indoctrinated and that you are offering them the way out. That is what Tucker is doing here. He's telling the potentially new viewers watching, you've been indoctrinated, you have been brainwashed, and I'm the only one who has the power and the the moral fabric to tell you the truth. Which is hilarious considering Tucker Carlson has legally been proven a liar and had to literally defend his defense in court was you can't take anything he says seriously.
Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year.
What he's referring to right now is the he's no angel argument. So essentially, whenever essentially any time a case of, for example, police brutality occurs where the victim is black and it ends up resulting in a black person dying who's unarmed, wasn't resisting, wasn't fighting back, literally was no threat. The right has to scramble to find a way to justify this killing because, of course, they are in favor of, killing minorities. They need to find a way to defend that person. Shu is so happy right now. True. They need to find a reason to justify the killing of, black people by the police, right? So what do? They decide to dig into that person's history and literally find any excuse to justify that killing. Oh, well, you see, he stole a candy bar 6 years ago when he was 12 years old. So, he was no angel. Let's not pretend this was some choir boy who got murdered in cold blood. That's basically the perspective they try to take.
What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed.
What did Tucker get fired for again? Didn't he literally just get fired for shit-talking the higher-ups at Fox? Did Tucker just unironically admit Fox News is fake news? Well, I mean, yeah, he's shit-talked Fox quite a bit since he got fired. But, it was always fake news. But he's claiming that now, all of Fox but him was fake news.
Every person who works in English...
Yeah, the Dominion lawsuit played a big part too, yeah. I love those texts. Here, by the way, as we listen to Tucker Carlson talk about how only he is able to tell the truth, Tucker Carlson Dominion texts. Let's look at those texts real fast. On Fox News' fatal Arizona call, the Daily Beast reports that in a text exchange with Fox News CEO Suzanne Scott on November 4th, Carlson expressed concern that the network was getting hammered, quote-unquote, after calling Arizona for President Biden before anyone else. Scott responded that Fox needed to let the data folk defend their decision, and Carlson wrote back that, if I can help in any way, I hope you'll let me know. In more urgent text to Brett Baer, Carlson wrote, I continue to think the company isn't taking this citation. Wait, what is it citing? Or isn't taking this seriously enough. We need to do something to reassure our core audience. They're our whole business model. Carlson floated various ideas, including interviewing Fox News Decision Desk director Arnon Mishkin on his show to help calm our viewers down. This is on election night. On Trump. Quote-unquote, what he's good at is destroying things, Carlson texted producer Alex Pfeiffer on November 5th. He's the undisputed world champion of that. He could easily destroy us if we play it wrong. Quote unquote, I hate him passionately, Carlson texted Pfeiffer on January 4th, days prior to the riot at the U.S. Capitol. He added, of Trump's presidency, we're all pretending we've got a lot to show for it because admitting what a disaster it's been is too tough to digest. But come on, there really isn't an upside to Trump. On election denialism. On November 5th, in response to his producer, Alex Pfeiffer, who had written that, I really think many on our side are being reckless demagogues right now, Carlson wrote, of course they are. We're not going to follow them. The sun will rise tomorrow and we want to wake up intact. I always think that. On Sidney Powell, in a message from November 4th, Carlson texted a colleague that there was no doubt there was fraud in the election, but at this point, Trump and Lynn and Powell have so discredited their own case, and the rest of us, to some extent, quote unquote, that it's infuriating, absolutely enrages me. Tucker was referring to Lynn Wood, another Trump lawyer. In a text on November 9th, Carlson referenced Powell's Dominion claims, commenting, the software shit is absurd. Carlson then said on television that night, we don't know anything about the software that many say was rigged. We don't know. We ought to find out. So, like, you can see he's, like, talking about how the voting software being rigged claim is bullshit and it's absurd in text, and then that night on TV saying, like playing into it. On November 16th, Carlson texted a producer that Sidney Powell's a lying fucking bitch. He also called Powell an unguided missile, dangerous as hell, and a crazy person. Sidney Powell is lying, by the way. I caught her. It's insane. Carlson texted Ingram on November 18th. The Daily Beast reports that on November 20th, during an exchange with Fox News anchor Brett Baer, Carlson referred to Powell as a cunt, adding, I mean it. The comment came from Baer, and Carlson discussed an appearance Powell made on Maria Bartiromo's show, in which Powell dismissed Carlson as rude for demanding that she back up her fantastical election fraud claims with evidence. On Trump skipping Biden's inauguration, hard to believe, so destructive, he texted Pfeiffer on November 10th. It's disgusting, I'm trying to look away. On the prospect of ditching Trump coverage on Fox, 2 days before the Capitol riot, Carlson wrote to a colleague that we are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. The day after Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, he texted his producer that Trump has 2 weeks left. Once he's out, he becomes incalculably less powerful, even in the minds of his supporters. He's a demonic force, a destroyer, but he's not going to destroy us. I've been thinking about this every day for 4 years. So Tucker Carlson is literally, like, hates Donald Trump and hates all this shit. He thinks Trump is a buffoon. He's just been spilling, like, Trumpist propaganda to Trump's fan base, despite hating him, for no other reason than for the grift. It's all for the money and the grift. It's all a business to these people. It's a business of making sure their ideology of lies stays relevant for as long as possible. And eventually humanity's going to throw it to the wayside. Conservatism will die one day, and humanity will be all the better for it. But their job is to make as much money off of making sure that doesn't happen for as long as possible.
Language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments.
So what he's upset about right now is that you can get fired from your media position working for a company for saying something that's untrue when your job is to say things that are true for informing the public. He's like, that's an imposition on my freedom of speech if I believe it's true. Text literally showing he doesn't believe the things he says on his show are true. If I believe they're true, then I should be allowed to say them to as big of an audience as possible.
Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now.
So everything we've been covering with Twitter, by the way, literally Twitter has like shadow banned any tweets that say the word trans, by the way. Like there's an entire list of LGBT related words that are literally shadow banned on Twitter. Like Elon has literally also removed protections for LGBT people from the TOS as well. So like all the different like insane changes that Elon Musk has been doing to destroy Twitter, that is what these people mean when they say free speech. They literally just like, here, let me show you an example of Twitter's free speech. Here's Twitter's free speech for you. There you go. Here's your Elon Musk's Twitter free speech. This account has been going since the beginning of the year, has been reported constantly, and is yet to be taken down. Here's the 50K followers. Elon Musk knows about that account. He probably personally knows about that account and has made sure it does not get banned.
Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets.
Wait, is Tucker unironically trying to argue that Twitter is dominated by left-wing news media? Is that unironically what he's trying to claim right now, when I can click on my For You tab and find a Nazi tweet in less than a minute? This was not the case before Elon Musk bought Twitter.
You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
Jesus. Well, I'd actually argue your Second Amendment rights are the most important one, because without that, you can't defend any of the others. But okay, if you say so, Tucker. Yeah, so essentially, like, this is just going to be Twitter, like, platforming Tucker Carlson's new show. He will not get banned no matter how insane, mask off, or downright wrong what he says or claims on his show ends up being. I expect to see a very mask-off Tucker Carlson because of this, so I guess we're going to see what comes of all this.